Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the intense, psychological chess match hidden deep inside the 2010 family comedy Little Fockers. Now, on the surface, sure, this might just look like a movie packed with slapstick and crude jokes. But if we actually peel back the layers, we uncover a totally fascinating study of trust, legacy, and honestly, the absolute limits of human endurance. So, can a family actually survive the weight of absolute paranoia? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to explore Greg Focker's grueling emotional gauntlet to win his father-in-law's respect. And believe it or not, this arc plays out way more like a high-stakes graphic novel than a lighthearted romp. We're looking at a protagonist who is constantly under surveillance, forced to prove his worth while navigating crazy misunderstandings, immense family pressure, and of course, his own personal insecurities. All right, part one, the burden of succession. Let's examine the massive weight suddenly dropped right onto Greg's shoulders at the start of the story. Just imagine the pressure of this title, the Godfocker. Jack Byrnes, the fiercely protective patriarch, is dealing with a failing heart. And to make matters worse, his former heir apparent, his other son-in-law, Bob, the Bob father, has completely betrayed the family through infidelity. So Jack is forced to look for a new successor. He reluctantly chooses Greg, bestowing upon him the heavy, suffocating title of the Godfocker. Almost instantly, Greg is thrust into this weird mafia-esque role. He's no longer just a husband and a father to 5-year-old twins, he is the anointed leader of the entire Byrnes family legacy. The stakes for his own family's survival and his desperate need to prove he can be the ultimate provider are drastically raised. Moving right along to part two, the seeds of suspicion. This immense burden quickly builds into a fatal flaw of secrecy, and that is exactly what fuels Jack's deep-seated paranoia. It brilliantly illustrates the dramatic irony that drives the whole narrative. To handle the financial burden of a new house and the pressure to send his twins to an elite private school, Greg really needs money. So he takes a secret moonlighting job. He actually becomes a spokesperson for an erectile dysfunction drug called Sustengo, working alongside Andy Garcia, a highly flirtatious pharmaceutical rep. Now that's Greg's reality. He's just trying to provide. But Jack views the secrecy through the darkest possible lens. Through a wild series of misunderstandings, Jack becomes absolutely convinced that Greg is an unfaithful, emasculated traitor who is actively having an affair. Every single move Greg makes to save his family, Jack interprets as a move to destroy it. Which brings us to part three, the humiliation trials. It's a perfect storm of miscommunication, and Greg quickly loses control of the narrative as we enter a catastrophic chain reaction of psychological torture. Just look at how rapidly this escalates. It begins with innocent but totally misleading comments from Greg's young daughter Samantha. That lights the fuse. Then Jack physically finds the Sustengo samples in Greg's house, which just feeds the fire. The absolute tipping point happens when a heavily intoxicated Andy aggressively ambushes Greg at his unfinished house, literally throwing herself at him. And of course, right on cue, Jack pulls up and witnesses the struggle, assuming the absolute worst. This escalation isn't just wacky comedy. It's a brutal emotional trial for Greg. It's tearing at the very fabric of his marriage while seemingly validating every single one of Jack's paranoid fears. This conflict requires Greg to pass through a crucible of immense personal humiliation. In a parallel subplot, Jack secretly takes one of those Sustengo pills and ends up with a severe 4-hour-long medical emergency. But his pride is so incredibly massive that he point-blank refuses to go to the hospital. Instead, he forces Greg, who is a registered nurse, remember, to administer an adrenaline injection directly into the affected area. Oh, and to make it infinitely worse, Greg's young son Henry accidentally walks in on this deeply uncomfortable ordeal and even draws a stick figure picture of it later. Greg literally must endure this intense humiliation to medically save Jack's pride. It pushes their dynamic to the absolute cringe-inducing limit. And you can only bend a relationship so far before it snaps. Welcome to part 4, the breaking point. Everything finally boils over at the twins' extravagant birthday party, leading to a physical manifestation of their psychological war. This is the ultimate climax of the film. We're at a party hosted at the mansion of Pam's wealthy ex-fiancé, Kevin, which is already a massive sore spot for Greg. Jack, enraged by what he believes is undeniable proof of Greg's infidelity, furiously confronts him. The verbal argument violently erupts into a full-blown slapstick fistfight right in the middle of a children's ball pit. But then, the tone shifts drastically. The immense physical and emotional strain induces a mild heart attack in Jack. He collapses,
Suddenly, it's not a childish brawl anymore. It is a literal life-or-death crisis. And this is Greg's moment of redemption. He doesn't even hesitate. He immediately utilizes his medical expertise to spring into action and save his father-in-law's life. But, Jack is Jack. Even strapped to a stretcher, having just had his life saved by the man he despises, his paranoia completely persists. As the paramedics are wheeling him away, he subtly reaches out and checks Greg's carotid artery. He is literally testing Greg's physical stress response while Greg is furiously swearing that he was completely faithful to Pam. This right here is the final test. If Greg were lying, his pulse would be racing in a total panic. But Jack feels the truth, a calm, steady pulse. Realizing Greg is telling the absolute truth, Jack's entire worldview shifts. He is finally forced to believe him, and it's in this exact moment that Jack officially anoints him as the Greg Focker. Not out of desperation this time, but out of genuine, hard-earned respect. Greg has officially survived the gauntlet. Finally, Part 5, the ultimate reconciliation. Let's see how this resolves the unbearable tension that has driven the entire emotional arc. 4 months later, on Christmas Day, peace is finally restored. The families reunite at Greg and Pam's newly finished home. The conflict dissolves, cementing the core message of the story. A family is kept together by love and tolerance, not by the rigid, paranoid control of a patriarch. Vulnerability and acceptance actually triumph over dominance. Now, you might be thinking a story with such a tight, high-stakes emotional arc would be a massive hit with reviewers. But it really wasn't. Critics completely panned the film. It holds a dismal 10% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Reviewers literally called it heartbreakingly lazy, lamenting that it traded the charm of its predecessors for crude, recycled gags. In fact, the situational comedy was so poorly received that Jessica Alba even won a Razzie Award for Worst Supporting Actress. But, and this is a huge but, audiences felt very differently. They really connected with the emotional payoff of this psychological gauntlet. General audiences, especially internationally, appreciated the undeniable comedic chemistry between the leads and that satisfying resolution of the family tension. This massive divide between critics and audiences pushed the film, which had a hefty $100 million budget, to a massive $310.7 million worldwide box office success. And financial success like that means the story definitely isn't over. The franchise's pop culture impact is so intensely enduring that there are actual live casino game expansions currently proposed. I mean, imagine playing themed slot machines or Teen Fockers Teen Party live tables. But more importantly for the story, a highly anticipated fourth installment, titled Focker-in-Law, is officially slated for release on November 25th, 2026. Which brings us to a fascinating place. As we gear up for Focker-in-Law, what new psychological trials await the Greg Focker now that he actually holds the keys to the kingdom? We'll have to wait until November 2026 to find out exactly what happens next, but it leaves you wondering, now that Greg is the patriarch, can he handle the absolute power of family leadership? Or is it only a matter of time before he adopts Jack's absolute paranoia and starts the whole cycle all over again? It's a pretty gripping thought to chew on. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep questioning the dynamics of the stories we love.